This is Margie Barrett of Lansdale, Pennsylvania, listening to the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on TKUT 90.3 FM Montreal.
Welcome to the International Radio Report for Sunday, June the 19th. My name's Sheldon. I am here with Jill, and it is our weekly visit with you for 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. We are live streaming and archived at ckut.ca. We have a Facebook group with 799 members. We'd love to break that 800 this week if we could. We'd like to welcome Joy, Sadahot, Danielle, Co, and Lawrence. You can find us on Facebook. Look for International Radio Report. We have our YouTube channel where you can go and listen to this show and previous shows. Look for International Radio Report on YouTube. We have 656 subscribers there. And if you want to email us, radioreport@yahoo.com is our email address. We have a pretty well-balanced show this week with some local information from here in Montreal, some U.S. news, and some international shortwave news as well. So we will get things going with a story that's attracting a lot of attention here in Montreal, and that is I guess we can call it a launch, but the station has been around for a long time, but they really haven't been doing a whole lot until this past week. The headline is AM 600 launched its first phase of live programming and its website on Monday. And this comes from Mike Cohen, an article in the Suburban newspaper. CFQR 600 AM radio unveiled the first phase of its live programming on Monday, June the 13th, with veteran broadcaster Jim Connell as the morning man. Connell has a long association with broadcasting in Montreal, working with the earlier incarnation of 600 AM, 940 News, and also Global TV. The new program is called Mornings Matter, and it will be a regular feature weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on the station. The CFQR will feature all-time hit music as well of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, along with news, information, and programs on topics of interest. In a blog last year, CFQR was expected to take this step some time ago, but according to co-founder Rajiv Panjoli, it got deferred because of the resurgent wave of COVID. More information about future programs will be made available on the station's new website, which is cfqr600.com. The website will also enable listening to the station on various digital platforms. There are 2 apps that will be available imminently for ease of listening on Android and iOS smartphones. CFQR 600 AM radio has already acquired a following of listeners who like the music they play, including Rachel the cashier at my neighborhood fruit store. It will be nice to hear the golden pipes of Connell and others who will follow him. And supposedly there will be others following. The station is currently looking for staff. They're looking for sales staff as well, to hopefully be able to get out there and sell some advertising. So it does look like what was supposed to be a news talk radio station may become a bit of a hybrid type of station where there will be news and news talk information programming, but there will also be some music programming. So right now it's just in the formation stage. You can check them out, as I said, cfqr600.com. And if you're within range of the station, it is 5,000 watts. It's a directional signal, though. They do change their antenna pattern, and the frequency 600 AM if you want to try to pick them up.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, the radio market in Montreal is pretty stale. Nothing's happening, so a variety of programming and music also. It's nice, and it's nice to see that they really seem to be in it. They want to do it, and they're doing something about it. For so long, it just was, music, and the only thing I could see before this happening was, well, someday it's going to be off the air, if nothing more.
Yeah, there was a lot of work that went into rebuilding the transmitter site, putting in new transmitting equipment, antennas. They had to fence the property, a government regulation of transmitter sites needing to be properly protected and what have you. So there's been, a lot of money sunk into the operation up to now. Let's hope they can start to turn things around and start some money coming in instead of just money going out. But it's going to be a tough task, I
Yeah.
think. Starting from scratch and getting people on board. Certainly, getting the morning show on is a good start, and then we'll see just how things go. We'll keep an ear tuned to it over the next little while. Keep you up to date on any new developments at AM 600 CFQR.
And more news from Montreal. Tony Marinaro is actually leaving TSN 690. This is by Stu Cohen of the Montreal Gazette. TSN 690 radio is losing another longtime member of the station. Source confirmed to the Montreal Gazette on Saturday morning, Tony Marinaro handed in his resignation to TSN 690 program director Chris Burry following his show on Friday, May 27th. The source also confirmed that Marinaro is expected to join the French 91.9 sports radio station in August, where he will be part of the Jean-Charles Lajoie's morning show. Marinaro had been with TSN 690 for almost 20 years. He hosted the Montreal Forum show 10 a.m. until noon on weekdays and has also done work in French on TV with RDS. Last year, Marinaro started the Sick podcast with Tony Marinaro, which the source said did not sit well with his TSN 690 boss. The source also said Marinaro will be allowed to continue with his podcast after he joins 91.9 Sports in late August, following the end of his non-compete clause with TSN 690. Marinaro's departure comes less than 4 months after former Canadian Chris Nyland was fired from TSN 690 for refusing to take a COVID-19 vaccine. Nyland had been with TSN 690 for 10 years and hosted the Off the Cuff show from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. Nyland had been working from home but said he was ordered by TSN parent company Bell Media to take the vaccine. Joey Alfieri, who was also play-by-play announcer for CF Montreal and had produced Mitch Melnick's afternoon show on TSN 690 since 2018, also left the radio station in February to become a team reporter, content creator, and social media manager for the Alouette. Alfieri joined TSN 690 as an intern in 2009. Marinaro developed a devoted following on his radio show, despite not having a primetime slot, and on Twitter, where he has more than 68,000 followers and figures he has blocked more than 2,000 others. Now, there's a follow-up to this story. What's happening at TSN 690 is that following the departure of Tony Marinaro from TSN 690, TSN has announced that they will be replacing the Montreal Forum show weekdays at 10 a.m. And what was just announced, Campbell versus Gallo, with Sean Campbell and Mitch Gallo, launches on June 20th at 10 a.m. So I guess a lot of changes. One of them, and one of the reasons that I could see here, is he didn't really like the fact that he would go and do his own thing online, which for them probably meant some kind of competition in a way. So.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's interesting, as they say, he's been there for almost 20 years. And I'd say next to Mitch Melnick, who hosts the afternoon drive, Marinaro was probably the best known name at the radio station. What I find really interesting is I don't know of very many instances where somebody from English media has left English media and gone to French media. Now, he's Italian, fluently bilingual, probably fluently trilingual, I guess, with Italian as well as English and French. But he has guested on sports talk shows on television and what have you in French as well as English. So he's comfortable in both. And, 91.9 is a fairly new station, a French sports talk station. And I guess, maybe they were looking for, a big name or somebody that's also a little bit controversial. As he said there, he has blocked a lot of followers on on social media because he does get into quite a bit of a row with some of his listeners. French radio likes controversy in Quebec quite often. A lot of the stations have had that sort of historic past. Maybe, he may just fit in nicely with and sort of kick some life into the 91.9 French sports station. So we'll see how that all comes out. But it's quite an interesting story to see that switch over. So we go next into the U.S. and we have a story from Radio World. It is time for the nominees for the Radio Hall of Fame. And Jill, disappointment once again. We're not on the list.
Darn.
We got to get a better marketing manager, I think, publicity agent or something. Anyways, Susan Waldman, Dave Ross, Walt Baby Love, and Chris Mad Dog Russo are just a few of the iconic radio talents who have been nominated for the Radio Hall of Fame. The Museum of Broadcast Communications released a list of 24 nominees whose names appear at the bottom of this story. We'll mention them as we get along. The museum said it received some 2,500 suggestions this year. The inductees will be named in late July and honored in an event in November in Chicago. The voting process has been tweaked. Ballots will be sent to 600 industry members later this month, and each voter can name up to 6 individuals. So some of you around North America may recognize some of these names because some of them are syndicated. Some are also with Sirius XM, which is interesting, that they're going to get categorized now as actual broadcasters in the Radio Hall of Fame. Yep. So we have Bob Stroud in Chicago, Bobby O.J. in Memphis, Broadway Bill Lee in New York, Carol Miller in New York, Charles Laquidera in Boston, Chris Mad Dog Russo from Sirius XM, Dave Ross in Seattle, Diane Rem in Washington, Diana Williams in Philadelphia, Ellen at KCOST FM in Los Angeles, John and Ken in Los Angeles, Johnny Magic at Orlando, Kevin Matthews in Chicago, Larry Elder was a syndicated show out of LA, Laurie DeYoung in Baltimore, Lon Helton, who does the Country Countdown USA, which is syndicated, Matt Siegel in Boston, Mojo in the Morning from Detroit, Pat St. John from Sirius XM, Pierre Robert in Philadelphia, Raul Brindis in Houston, Little Steven Van Zandt from Sirius XM with his Underground Garage channel, Susie Waldem, who is with the New York Yankees radio network in New York, and Walt Baby Love, who is with Gospel Tracks. Last year, the organization named 33 legacy personalities and executives to the Hall in addition to the 2021 inductees. Dennis Green and Craig T. Kitchen are co-chairs of the Radio Hall of Fame, which was founded by Emerson Radio Group in 1988. It is now run by the Museum of Broadcast Communications in Chicago. Congratulations to all those nominees, and we'll have the winners who will be inducted. They will be announced in July.
It's interesting as you see how other media now, streaming and even satellite radio, you just can't escape it. Now there are other medias and other personalities that have their shows, and they I think it's cool that all of that is integrated and mixed in with regular radio. So what's happening with our sun? Well, last week it was super quiet. This week it's one of the weeks where there's the most sunspots in a long time. Sunspot number is 159, divided into 9 sunspot groups on the solar disk. A couple of them that are unstable, so they could actually harbor energy for M-class solar flares. Solar flux, which barely was below 100 for a day or two last week, back up to 147, making good propagation. The bands are really nice. One of the things I want to mention, we're at that time of the year where E-skip, sporadic E-skip is at the most intense. Check it out almost every day in the last week, 10 meters and 6 meters, even open in the middle of the night. So really interesting stuff. I've got some stations from Mexico on FT8 mode on 5313 on 6 meters. So there is a slight chance of some disruption a little bit because a narrow stream of solar wind flows from a coronal hole that will reach Earth around June the 20th. But apart from that, you know what? You've got to tune around. You got to check out the conditions. When it's a little quiet, it's amazing. And there's only one way you can really do this, and it's to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Rita Barrett from Harleysville, Pennsylvania. You're listening to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
So we've got some news. One, first of all, that we talked about a few weeks ago, and there's an update from WMLK in Bethel, Pennsylvania. This is via the WMLK Facebook page, via Alan Pennington and World of Radio I.O. group. So from a WMLK Facebook posting on Wednesday, it's been an action-packed week, they say. The engineer finalized frequency tuning, followed by 2 full days of training. Tomorrow will be the completion of the site acceptance verification, followed by testing and setup of the spare modules. There is a tuning issue with one of our FCC assigned frequencies, 15150. With the improved feed line, we have to adjust our tuning stub. It's not a long process, but we have to wait until the specialized equipment comes in from Texas. We anticipate initiating a regular broadcast schedule on Monday, June the 20th. That'll be from 1 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 17 to 22 UTC. The frequency will be 9275, and it will begin overnight broadcasting on 15150 when the stub adjustments are completed. So keep checking back for updates. So 2 frequencies to monitor, 9275, 15150. And starting June the 20th, it's going to be interesting to see. I'll be checking out 9275 for sure. From 1 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern Time, that's 17 to 22 hours Universal Time.
Yeah, WMLK is a station that tied into a religious group called the Assemblies of Yahweh, and they are located in Bethel, Pennsylvania. They've been on the air before, but then they had to replace all of their equipment. So this is a return to shortwave for this radio station.
Now, something that a lot of us are waiting for every year, and I guess some people in Antarctica are also waiting for this every year. It's the BBC Midwinter broadcast to the British Antarctic Service personnel. So this is via Wolfgang Buchel, BDXC News Group. The annual BBC Midwinter broadcast to the British Antarctic Service personnel overwintering at bases in the Antarctic is scheduled for Midwinter's Day, 21st of June, from 21:30 to 22 UTC on shortwave. So they did some tests that we actually were tuning in, you and me, Sheldon, on June the 14th for 15 minutes. From what we know, the frequencies that will be used that are official, 7305 from Ascension Island, 6035 from Dabaya, United Arab Emirates, 9505 and 12065 from Wofferton and to the UK. So actual half-hour broadcast on June 21st will likely use these frequencies. The test transmissions on all 4 frequencies that were concluded, we were listening in. I had 12065 really, really well here in Montreal. That was definitely the best frequency for me, so hoping that frequency will make it. Always a lot of fun and joy to listen to with the greetings from the families and music. It's a fun little event that lasts 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's something that listeners around the world tune in for, and it's really nice that the BBC remembers this literally a handful of people who are spending midwinter, and apparently it's a big party down there in Antarctica at Midwinter's Day, and it's a very small group of researchers, scientists, that sort of thing, and they've been gathering up messages from home, little recordings and requests for music, and in that half hour you'll hear those letters read out to those people by the family members. So you can imagine sitting down in Antarctica with the radios tuned to listen to those familiar voices from home. So it is a really neat little annual event. If you have a chance to check it out, please do, coming up on the 21st of June.
And just a quick note, if you miss listening to it or if you just can't be on the radio at that time, the BBC Midwinter webpage will have the whole broadcast that you can listen to online.
Next, we move to a story via Alan Pennington in the World of Radio IO Group. Radio Pravda Dizha Rossiya, uncensored radio for Russia, a shortwave program for Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. Under the name of Radio Pravda Dizha Rossiya, started on the 9th of April 2022, a new radio program especially for Russia. The targets of the broadcasts are serious and uncensored reporting, as well as unfiltered news for the Russian population. Due to the increasing state censorship and administrative restrictions on the internet, as well as the satellite broadcasts in reporting about Russia, this program will be broadcast again on the short term. It is available nationwide throughout Eastern Europe and Siberia. The program was founded by engineers and journalists in collaboration with radio stations, which in part come from Russia and Ukraine. The journalists already have years of experience in renowned public broadcasting agencies. The 40-minute program in the journal format is produced voluntarily in the spare time and is funded entirely from private donations. Although the first test broadcasts were only aired with low broadcast performance and were little known so far, the editorial office received large numbers of feedback from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. The desire was expressed to continue the broadcasts and please repeat it several times. The radio station considers this a clear signal for the need for such uncensored news. Now, due to listeners' feedback and summer propagation on HF, they are increasing their schedule on 13600 kilohertz with high power, and they're canceling 6070 kilohertz for the moment. So the new schedule shows the following: 9670 kilohertz Wednesday and Friday at 0500 UTC. That's via channel 292 in Germany with a lower power signal. And 13600 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 1500 UTC, high powered, and that's via the Moosbrunn, Austria transmitter. So these are Russian language programs, of course, so you'll need to understand the language, obviously, to understand the content. But it's really important that they've taken this step to, listen to the listeners who are telling them, which signals are working best, and that they're making these changes to help get better signals out to the listening audience. So, weren't there some people who said that nobody listens to the radio in Russia and Ukraine a while back?
Apparently.
Well, somebody's listening to this interesting broadcast, and it's glad to see that it's going to continue and that they're altering the schedule to hopefully get the programming through to the people that are anxious to hear it.
So there's upcoming ham radio contests.
Yeah, one contest and one big event contest coming up. The first one is an annual event called His Majesty King of Spain contest. It's the 1200 Zulu June 25th to 1200 Zulu June 26th. It's organized by the Union of Spanish Radio Aficionados. Its mode is SSB. The bands are 10, 15, 20, 40, 80, and 160 meters. So you can look for a lot of Spanish ham operators on the air for that one.
And the big one, the Arrl Field Day from 18 Zulu June 25th to 21 Zulu June 26th. Field Day is ham radio's open house. Every June, more than 40,000 hams through North America set up temporarily transmitting stations in public places to demonstrate ham radio's science, skill, and service to our communities and our nation. It combines public service, emergency preparedness, community outreach, and technical skills, all in a single event. Field Day has been an annual event since 1933 and remains the most popular event in ham radio. So the objective is to contact as many stations as possible on the 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meter HF bands, as well as all the bands 50 megahertz and above. So it's pretty much every amateur radio bands except for a few work bands. And it is to learn to operate in abnormal situations in less than optimal conditions. Field Day is open to all amateurs in the areas covered by the ARRL RAC field organizations and countries within IARU Region 2. DX stations residing in other regions may be contacted for credit. They're not eligible to submit entries. So, like I said, the bands are all the HF bands except warg bands and 50 megahertz and above. And this is really a nice event. It's a nice event to show the technical know-how of our amateur radio community, knowing that in times of emergencies, this is maybe the way you're going to have to set up. But sometimes that's what's needed to get communications out when things go bad. And this is kind of a demonstration of how amateur radio, and this is where we have to focus, by the way, guys. I always say it. You want to have people think of amateur radio as something more than CB radio? You got to show them. We are here in times of emergencies. We've seen it here in Quebec in the high storms in 98. And we see it all the time when hurricanes hit in the United States and the Caribbean. And Field Day is a great event for that and to show everybody what we're all capable of.
Yeah, some of the stations use different types of power to operate their stations. Some it's battery power, some it's on generators. There's even some solar stations operating in some areas. Now, what you can do if you're, whether you're a ham or not, is check around your local area, see if you've got a local ham radio club and get in touch with them and find out if they have something planned for Field Day that you could maybe just go and observe, or maybe you can go and help out with as well and learn a little bit more about how it all works. Now, there's a couple of things going on here locally that we want to tell you about. Here in Montreal, we've got a joint Field Day activity between the Montreal Amateur Radio Club and the West Island Amateur Radio Club. It's their first event post-COVID, and they're returning to a spot that they've used in the past. It's Centennial Park in Beaconsfield. It's right along, close to the water's edge, along the waterfront in the West Island. And they'll be using the call sign of VE2 Alpha Romeo Charlie. They'll have one HF station and one 6-meter station operating, and they're welcoming visitors to drop by and see what it's all about. So they'll be setting up at 8 a.m. and on-air activities will commence at 2 p.m. Eastern and go until 2 p.m. on Sunday. You got lots of opportunity to drop by and see what those two clubs are doing.
There's also a Field Day event happening in Quebec City. There will be a Field Day event from the Club Radio Amateur de Québec. It's going to happen at La Maison Société Française de Québec, 890 Boulevard du Lac à Québec. And so there will be, of course, activation of stations on the air for the Field Day. They'll be on HF, and they'll also be on VHF, UHF. This is going to be nice, and if you want to go, and I'm sure if you're in the Quebec City area, if you want to go and visit, they'll welcome you and show you a little bit of how it all works with the Field Day.
And if you're a ham operator, you can help them out as well on the contest side of it by just being on the air and making contact with Field Day stations to give them that extra point towards their total count for the Field Day contest aspect of Field Day. So check it all out. That's coming up June 25th and June 26th.
Yep, it's a lot of fun to listen to also. So we're out of time.
Yes, we are. We thank you for tuning in. We have a holiday weekend coming up in Quebec as well. The Saint Jean-Baptiste weekend is coming up, which will tie in with Field Day as well. So there'll be lots of things going on here in Quebec for that weekend as well coming up. So have a great week, everybody. And we'll talk to you again next week with our next edition of the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
This is the BBC World Service calling Antarctica. I'm Keris Matthews, here to welcome you to the Antarctic Midwinter broadcast, a special programme of greetings and music for members of the British Antarctic Survey overwintering in the frozen south.